this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and I am bringing you a project recipe today for that was designed for the Creative Memories collection called Devotion that came out earlier in 2022, so earlier this year in March. And this is a collection that is lovely for anything wedding related or anniversary related. I love the gold tones and the silver tones. It's perfect for silver anniversaries or golden anniversaries. Perfect for weddings. I used it for a niece and nephew who got married in April, for several of their layouts that I made for their album, and also gave them the Fast to Fabulous or Fast to Fab album that goes along with this collection. And they have made a beautiful album, which I hope to share with you at some point, as soon as the bride is done getting her album put together. She said that she would share it with me. I'm hoping she won't mind if I share it with you once that happens. But today I'm just going to go ahead and share with you a quick layout. And this layout is going to be a little bit different than the actual project recipe. It'll be similar enough, but also slightly original, so bear with me. You are going to need 2 designer pages as your base. I'm using 2 matching pieces because I don't like it when they use 2 different kinds of, or 2 different papers for the base, but that's just me. You can do whatever makes you happy. Then you're going to need an additional piece of designer paper for matting the larger photos, and you're going to need another piece of paper for this center part, the base of these center photos, which we are actually going to flip and make those the outside photos of our layout. And then they have used a piece of shimmer paper, of the platinum shimmer paper, to do the punched items on this with, and so we will go ahead and do that as well. Also, I'm going to incorporate a laser paper from this collection, if you are familiar with that at all. Hopefully that's not too glary and you can see it. We're going to use this one over here on the side, and we're going to cut it in half and use that as our center paper. Or we're going to try that and see if it works. And so bear with me, and if it doesn't work, then we'll switch it and we'll just do the traditional project recipe. But I think this is going to work, and I'm excited. You're going to need you will need a corner rounder. Excuse me, and you're going to specifically need the Creative Memories corner rounder, because the Creative Memories corner rounder will cut your corners in a typically round fashion, and then it will also cut your corner going the opposite way. And that's what we need for our design today, is to be able to cut our corner inverted. And I'll show you what that means when we get to that point. You're also going to need one of our standalone punches, either the Infinity Heart punch that came out this year, or you can use this one, which was the Heart to Heart border punch that came out, I think it was last year. So if you have either of those, you can use one or the other, whichever one you have or whichever one you like best. Let me go ahead and move. I've chosen these papers as my base papers, and so we're going to set those aside just for a minute. And I'm going to set my directions aside, although here we go. Let me just give you a very clear shot of that. This is what the layout's going to look like, although we're going to invert our pages so that these outer pictures are actually the ones in the center. You'll see what I mean in just a second. And then here is our cutting guide. So this first paper is actually going to be the one that we're going to use the laser cut piece for. And if that doesn't work out, then I have this alternate piece of designer paper that we'll use instead. So we'll see how that all comes together. And then our accent paper is going to be this one. That's going to be, we're going to use our magic mat method and cut 4 mats out of this paper. And then we're going to use our platinum shimmer to do some punching and make some additional mats. So I'm going to set these aside here for a second. We're going to start with our laser paper. Let me get my little reminder stickies off of here, just so they're out of the way, and I'm going to set this page out of the way as well. So to make this conform to the directions, this would need to be a 6x9 piece, but we are not going to cut it down to 9. I'm going to try and just leave it as a 12-inch piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my page at the top, and we're going to make sure it's level, which can be a little bit tricky because this with a scallop on the edge just makes it a little bit hard to keep it straight. And we just want to make sure that we have that as straight as possible. And actually, I can see that I'm better off if I just go ahead and line up this center point with my cutting line instead of trying to measure it out at 6 inches, so that way we have the design equal on both sides. So I'm just going to go ahead and line up this center dip on both the top and the bottom of my design with my cutting line on my trimmer. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut through. Okay, so I have 2 different pieces of that. And you can see that's pretty even because we got both of that evenly spaced. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my matte piece. We're going to use this piece as our matte paper, and we're going to use our magic mats method. If you have ever made magic mats with me or watched that video, then you will know that what we need to do is go ahead and measure 4.5 inches. These mats are going to be 4.5 by 6.5. So we're going to start off by measuring 4.5 inches up here at the top, close our arm. We're going to look down here and we're going to measure, or we're going to cut to 6.5. Okay, so right here is where we're going to stop our cut. Now our blade housing, the blade is right in the center, and this is 2 inches. So I've got an inch where I can, if I move the edge of my blade housing an inch further than where I want to cut, then I will cut right where I need to be. So I need the blade housing to come here to 7.5 inches. So I'm just gonna keep my fingernail there. You could use a clip, which I thought I had up here, but I don't have any of to grab, but my fingernail should work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and straighten my paper out because it's slightly askew. And you want to make sure you keep your paper nice and straight. Okay, that's much better. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring my blade housing down to 7.5 so that I stop cutting at 6.5, right? Then I'm going to go ahead and turn my paper. And 6.5 plus 4.5 is going to be 11 inches. And we should have done this first and I didn't do it, so sorry. But you have to start off with an appropriate square. So when you are doing magic mats, make sure that the square you start off with is the sum of a short side and a long side of your mat. So 4.5 plus 6.5 gives me 11 inches, and I've got 1 inch to spare. So I need to take off an inch and make this square at 11 inches. And I apologize that I forgot that step. So here we go. We'll take 1 inch off here, and we'll take 1 inch off this side. So we're just turning it one turn and cutting another inch. There we go. Now, we started with this cut right here that we've already made, right? That was at 4.5 inches and down to 6.5 inches. Now we're gonna turn that counterclockwise. We're gonna put our paper again at 4.5 inches at the top, and you can see that our cut here is at 6.5 inches. So I'm just gonna take the white line on the side of my trimmer right here, that white line, and I'm gonna line that up with my cut mark where I can see my paper is cut, and I'm gonna bring it all the way to the edge. Okay, there we go. So there's our first mat. Then we're gonna turn our paper one more time. Again, measure it at 4.5 inches. And you can already see that that measurement is just right where it needs to be, because there's that bold line at 6.5. We're gonna bring that down. There's our second mat. And we're gonna turn this again at 4.5, measuring at 4.5 this way. And we need a 6.5. There's our third mat. We don't have to turn it one more time. We've got our fourth mat. All right, and this is our little extra 1 inch piece. So we'll just set that aside because those are extra. In fact, let me just get those out of the frame so you don't have to worry over them. All right, so we've got our designer paper number 1. We've got our mats from designer paper number 2. Now we're going to cut our shimmer paper. We're going to punch that first. Don't put your trimmer too far away. We're going to need that. But we're going to punch it first. And I'm going to go ahead and use my, I'm losing my marbles, my heart to heart border. And we're going to punch this 3 times. And then we're going to cut those punched strips. So bear with me here. We're going to just punch this across 3 times. Guide it across so it matches the design in the blue and covers the design, or so that your notches match. See how there's a notch in this little strip up here? That notch matches the blue notch on the punch. So match that notch and you're in good shape. That's where you need to punch. So sliding it across. Matching the notch, matching the design. There is one. I'm just gonna trim this off here with my finger. And this off with my finger. And I'll make that a little bit neater in just a minute. Excuse me. Now we're gonna do 2 more. Matching or lining it up with this side notch here, or we could go the other direction. Sliding it across to match the design. This punch is fairly easy this way because the design repeats and is very easy to identify, which is good. Some punches are not quite so easy. And just for fun, let's go the other direction just to show you. So we'll line up the edge with the mark on this side and punch, Slide it across, match up our design and our notch, punch. You can tell I usually go the other direction. I'm not quite as fast going this way. Make sure this side of the paper always is up against that bumper so it stays straight. Design stays straight. There we go. All right. Now we're going to cut the rest of this shimmer paper, but one thing I want you to see is after you use this punch, you should have two cute little stacks of hearts that you can use in some other cute little project, and those are nice size hearts. So don't throw those away, just slide them to the side. You can use them again sometime, maybe in a shaker card or as embellishments on another design. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use our shimmer paper to cut a couple of mats. So we're going to cut at 4 1/4. So I'm going to just slide this over to 4 1/4. And then we're going to turn it and we're going to cut again at 4 1/4 so that we have two squares. So here's one 4 1/4 and here is another 4 1/4. Then this is extra, so set that aside. And then you're going to take your additional piece of silver or of platinum, and this should measure 3 1/4. So mine is just measuring a slightly wider, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it to make sure that it is at 3 1/4, just barely a little bit more. Then I'm going to turn it and we're going to measure it at 4 1/4. So this strip is going to be 3 1/4 this way by 4 1/4 this way. So not square, but you'll see that it works really well for this design, for this layout. All right, this extra piece just set aside. You can use that on another layout. We've got that all together, and now it's time to assemble. So let's see if my idea will work. Let me go ahead and set these punches aside for a second. You are going to, before we do that, let's go ahead and punch our corners. So not on these pieces of shimmer paper, but on your gold pieces, your 4 1/2 by 6 1/2 mats, you're going to take your corner rounder and you're going to use the inverted corner cut to punch each of the corners on this mat. So you're going to take your paper, insert it into the corner of the punch this way so that we get an inverted corner. And let me show you what it looks like. See? So here's our inverted corner. And we're going to do that to every corner of each of these mats. Then you're also going to do that to the photos that go on the page so that the photos match the mat. It's very cute. Has a very cute effect. It's also kind of fun to do a maybe a journal box and do this to the corners of your journal box. It's a fun tool. And I'm honestly not sure that there's another company that makes an inverted corner rounder. Maybe there is, but I haven't seen one. So there's a second one. You have to be a little bit careful when you line up your paper to do this, because if you are a little bit too hasty, you can not have the paper quite in there right, and then your corner that your inverted corner that you punch is slightly off. So just take a minute and make sure your paper is in here in the corner correctly, so that you're not disappointed at the cut not quite going the way you want it. I say that from experience. The first few times I used this, I ended up with some punched corners that looked a little bit wonky, and I had to kind of reel it in, so to speak, and figure out what needed to happen to make that work. Okay, so keeping in mind that we're going to invert our design here. Oh, we need to trim these as well. My bad. Hold on just a second. Get your trimmer back out quickly, and we're going to trim these up. So our punched borders need to be cut at 4 3/4 inches. So we're going to take them. You could stack them. I think that should work out just fine if you stack them. If your punches are not quite on the nose, just make it so that all of your designs line up the best you can, just like that. Okay, then we're going to slide it in here, and we're going to line it up at the 4 3/4 mark. There we go. There's 4 3/4. And I'm actually going to scoop mine just a tad bit, just so that I have a little bit more of that heart in there. And then we're going to trim it right there, okay? Don't throw any of these pieces away. There is one piece we will not need, but for now, just keep all of those pieces right there. Okay, now we're going to lay this out and see how it looks, see if I need to cut that other piece, because I decide that maybe this isn't what I wanted to do after all. So my idea was to take this piece and go ahead and put it on the outside edge. In our design instructions, it would have gone on the inside edge, but I want to put it on the outside edge. And then we're going to have one mat overlapping it slightly at the top edge here, and another mat over here on this side, another mat down here, another mat down here. Then we've got a square that will go here, and a square that will go here. Whoops, I have that wrong. These need to go on the bottom. I have a daughter who's accosting me. Sorry. Hang on. Kisses are all good, but I'm trying to work here. All right. So this needs to go up just a little bit. This needs to come down and be here. This will go here. All right, I'm having trouble with the vision. Hang on just a second. This short one goes up there, and this short one goes on the bottom. I'm not sure I'm liking this. Maybe I'll need to follow the directions after all. Hang on. Oh, and I need to cut one of these down to 4 3/4. That's right. So grab one of the long ones, or grab your trimmer. Sorry about that. 4 3/4. We need 4 3/4 on this one. Four down here. And I think that's meant to line up a little bit more like so. And then these two have roughly a 1/2 inch between. And this lines up with the bottom of here. And then this will line up with that match right there. And see, my measurements are a little bit wonky because of the fact that I'm using this decorative piece right here. So I think I need to trim that down a bit. But I like it. So, I think I'm gonna get my scissors out and do some fiddly cutting. So if you have your precision cut scissors, that's what I'm gonna use. And I'm going to take one of the hearts off the end of this and just cut that piece off just like so. And I'm going to clean this up too because that is not clean and I don't like having that little piece sticking out there. I'm going to do the same thing on these pieces. So I'm going to cut that little tiny piece off and I'm going to take off the heart on the very end. All right, so just like so, and that will fit much better. I'm going to do the same thing to this one up here. If you have a little snaggle tooth right here on the end, cut that off, and then I'm going to trim off this one piece. Now, if you're wanting to do the traditional or the actual project recipe, this would be not as necessary for you because you will be, your papers will be inverted. And these pieces, the decorative pieces that I'm using, the laser cut pieces, those pieces are going to be there. They will measure, they'll be from another decorative sheet of paper, and they'll measure 6 by 9. So they will go right there, but they'll measure 6 by 9. Okay, so that piece will go here. Okay, one more to clean up and then we can adhere some of these. So we'll be able to see our design a bit better. Okay, there. All right, so let me get my adhesive here. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and get this decorative piece put down, and let me grab my multi-purpose tool because my nails are going to wreak havoc. Okay, so we've got this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, which are just gonna kind of scoot while we adhere this piece. All right, so we're gonna just add our adhesive at the key points. And then this is gonna scoot all the way to the edge, or within about, you know, a hair's breadth of the edge. Centered on there. One second, I think I need to adjust that just a tiny bit. All right. I love the shadowy flowers that are on this. I think it's just so delicate looking and very pretty. All right. So now we're going to, I'm going to put my adhesive on the mats here, and without pressing down right away, I'm just going to put my adhesive on this mat as well. So adding my adhesive. Uh-oh, I'm out of tape runner. Give me 1 second. I'll grab some more. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. All right. So I'm going to place this about 1 inch from the bottom and very close within about 1/16 of an inch from the center edge of my page, a generous 1/16 of an inch. And I'm just going to push down those center pieces. Then I'm going to just place my punched design there so that I can see where my photo mat needs to go. And again, it's going to be just a generous 1/16 of an inch away from this mat. So very, very close. That should be right. So you can push down all your other mats. Okay. And my repositionable adhesive has walked away. Wow. I thought it was just right here. Well, here's some more. So we're good. So some repositionable adhesive on this guy, and then we're going to make him line up with the top of this silver mat here. Make him straight. Okay, so there we've got our bottom part. Now we're going to do the top part. So let's get adhesive on this one and adhesive on this one. And what we're going to do is just make our border as close to exactly the same on the top as we had it on the bottom. So the same distance away from the edge in the center here, and the same distance away from our punched border on the bottom. Okay, then we're going to take this guy and our border that's going to go, and I haven't glued down the border yet, but we're going to make this border approximately the same distance from the edge of the laser cut border. And we're going to place this guy so that the edges of this line up with the one at the bottom. So the right and left edges of this mat line up with the right and left edges of this mat, and they are about the same distance away from this mat right here. Okay. Repositionable adhesive is going to be your very good friend. And actually, I got that a little low, so I'm going to move this mat up somewhat because I want it to be closer to the punched design at the top. There. Much better. And then we still need to put this guy down. So repositionable adhesive on him again. Put the flat edge of this heart right up against the gold mat. So essentially that design disappears underneath this mat. All right, so that page is done. We may add some embellishments, but for the most part, that page is done. Now we need to do this one. Halfway there, guys, halfway there. So just move our essential elements off. There we go. Flip this guy over. Again, watch your edges, make sure you're not going over somewhere. Try to keep the same distance so that your piece is straight. Okay, that looks good. No need to glue down all of the filigree around the edge. That will stay where it needs to stay. There's no long pieces that are gonna fly away from you, so you're good there. Almost done. Well, we're halfway done, a little more than halfway done. So the easy way to do this, the second sheet, is again to line it up right next to your first page, or the left page, and then that way you can make sure that the photos on the right sheet, the right side, are the same. There we go. Okay, and before I put that one down, I'm just going to go ahead and put my punched strip where it needs to go. Now we need adhesive on the top. Oh, and we need to do that middle strip too. I don't know if you can hear that or not. My daughter has a water bottle that makes loud, funny noises like an animal. It's kind of crazy. I can hear her when she's drinking her water in the other room. Okay, again, we're going to line up these 2 pages so we can line up our mat. Don't you hate it when you go to push the adhesive down and your paper shifts? Okay, here's that one. Then we've got this piece that I already put adhesive on, so I can just stick that right down. And then this one. Right down. And we just have this long piece. And then we'll be done, except for some embellishments, and my nails are just really getting to me today. There we go. Okay. And I need to do that the other way. Put the edge of this heart right up against this mat, and then that way you're in the right spot. You know you're in the right spot. And that'll work. All right, perfect. Okay, now let's see here. I think we are just about done. However, if you wanted to add some embellishments, you could. Some flowers, some maybe a small conversational embellishment or something like that would be very appropriate in the corners here, or maybe right here in the corner. I don't have my embellishments for this particular collection handy, but I think honestly I think I would probably just leave it looking just the way it is. But if you do have some matching embellishments for your collection that you're using, or for this collection, don't hesitate to find one of the beautiful flowers collages that came with this one and use that in an appropriate corner. They are beautiful and they do accent the page in a lovely way. All right, I hope that you've had some fun with me today putting this together. It was a little bit of an adventure. Thank you so much for bearing with me and being a little more creative than we always are. And typically I like to follow the project recipe, but this time I thought it would be fun to try something just a little bit different. And so I appreciate you coming along for that journey. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, I'm wishing you many more creative moments. You take care and have a great day.